Test 1, 2. Ready for this? It's a great day in Kershaw County. All members are present and a quorum is recorded. Mary, thank you very much. And it's also a great day in this All-America County. We've had tornadoes in the last 15 months. We've made it through COVID now for the first time in a year, we've had 0 cases reported today. We have made it through a recession, and now seemingly just like toilet paper and during COVID, people are now trying to get all the gas they can. But we are a professional county. We have suffered and we have overcome, and we will make it through all these challenges. We've had a great day with a budget. And as you noticed, Camden has lapsed on the mask policy, and this county council has not renewed the emergency declaration. So I'm wearing a mask out of consideration for others, but I've had my shot, and the mask is optional. So you can wear it if you want, and don't wear it if you don't want. That's the way it's kind of been in this county since we started. And look where we are. It looks like we're going to see a brighter day in this COVID. Unfortunately, I must tell you also that apparently the virus hadn't gotten the news, and we've lost 4 more people in the last 3 weeks. So I ask you to join me now in a moment of silence, please. Amen. We are now called to order. I've been detailed to do the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please stand? As it says in the good book, blessed is a nation whose God is the Lord, in Psalm 33, and there's some good words in there. And so with that, we pray, and we ask the Almighty's blessing on this meeting and guide us in our deliberations and give us every piece of wisdom that is in your best wisdom to give us a way clear ahead as your people trying to achieve the best we can for our county with the limited resources we have. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So with that, we move to public comments. Mary, do we have any call-ins? Okay, we have none. Mr. DeBose, who signed up?
The first person that signed up is Cliff Judy.
All right. Mr. Judy, thank you. And as you come up, we limit it to about 5 minutes. There's no question and answer and exchange, but we do want to hear from you, sir, and we ask you your comments be respectful and to the point. With that, Mr. Judy, go right ahead.
Thank you. First, I want to submit this, not submit it, but show it. This is a file that I have.
Can you bring the microphone over to your mouth so everybody can hear it?
That is it better?
Yeah, it's better. Thank you.
This is basically a file that I've had on Palmetto Utilities since 2011 and my dealings with them in the hearings and otherwise. I submitted about most of this, the meaningful stuff to this, to Mr. Bowes about 2 or 3 weeks ago for the county. And but the file is this big. It's a lot of stuff, and it's not pleasant. There's another file that dates back to the 90s, 1990. This is a file of me dealing with the county on a sewer proposition that we built. I put the sewer pump station in 1984 that exists on I-20 at exit 92. Doing that, I had to deal with the county chairman, all the different ones, and it was pleasant. It was very pleasant. And the files are the same thickness. One's pleasant, and one is an aggravation. And so, I'm not sure who Palmetto is today. You know, this is just going into some transition, but I would submit, I've dealt with people like Austin Shaheen, if you know, Bill Byers, who was a county attorney at the time, Jim McGirt, Ed Royal, Dave Screen, Ken. Ken, I've dealt with you for 37 years. Long time. Never any unpleasantness, at least that I know of. And so what we have is a situation where the county does well. It has done well, continues to do well. The people are interested. Nobody that I know in this county government is easy to push around. I've tried to push some around, they don't push. But they work. They work with you, they work with you to get things done. So I'll close with this. This is a note it has to do with Jim McGirt, and it was December 5th of 1995. This is my file. Jim wanted to borrow. Our deal with the sewer was very complicated. And it left the rights for me to charge right-of-way charges to pay me back for putting the sewer in there. The amount of money spent was like $360,000, 60 from the county, 300 from me. But it's too complicated for anybody to understand. So at some point, Jim called me and asked me, could the county borrow 15,000 gallons a day of sewer that Creighton McMaster and I had for our part of the deal. And, couldn't speak for Creighton, but I called Creighton. I said, look, they want to borrow 15,000 gallons of sewer. Well, all this is way above my head and his too. But we said, fine, you pay the lawyer to draw it up. It's fine. And I think, looking at all the stuff that on the board about this sewer stuff, this is the last file. I'm going to give this to Ken. But Palmetto sought, and I think got permission to raise the sewer fee on the residential people to $66 a month, up from $40. The county, and this I got off the internet, the average price of sewer, I'm not sure if this is on a use basis or not, but it's $35. So you got 100% increase in cost to the consumer. I don't know of any advantage. If I can work through all these guys and we get things done, you really don't need Palmetto. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Judy.
Here you go, Ken.
Thank you very much. Mr. DeBose.
The second person that signed up is Ralph DeMarco.
Mr. DeMarco.
Well, I guess you can tell by the shirt, I'm with the Solid Waste Department. First thing I've got on my agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Judy,
we need a point
Mr.
of
Judy,
order.
I got it. Mr. Judy, if you
Get on
can take it outside, please. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. DeMarco.
First thing I've got on my agenda is our landfill hours on a Saturday are half days, and we're completely filled up before we ever get to Saturday afternoon. So we've got no place to take this trash. We can't send the people anywhere else except to another site. And we've got people running around in circles trying to get rid of their own trash. I think the landfill hours ought to be full days on Saturday, just like the rest of us. Mm-hmm. Second thing I've got on here is I'd like to invite all of you actually on a Saturday afternoon to go to either Elgin, Springdale, which is my site, or the airport, and spend an afternoon there on Saturday afternoon and see what's going on and see how much trash is being dumped every Saturday. And it actually starts on Friday. And the last thing I've got on there is we're sending our trucks up and down the road with a lot of air in them and no garbage. And the reason for that is because we got equipment broke down. When I got here a little over 3 years ago, I had a backhoe at my site. It was parked in the corner, and there it stayed for 9 months and finally got moved to the landfill. Right now, we got 2 more parked at 2 different other sites that are broke down. And we're not getting these, so we cannot compact the trash in the open tops. By not being able to compact this trash, you're sending trucks down the road half empty. You're sending twice as many trucks down the road every day, half empty. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir, and thanks for what you do for the county. Mr. DeBose.
The third person that signed up is Judge Debbie Branham.
All right. Thank you, Judge.
Good evening.
Good evening.
After leaving the budget workshop today, I felt compelled to reach out to all of you, and so that's why I'm here tonight. I can get you all at one time. The first thing I'd like to say is I am excited and very hopeful that some of you have expressed a desire to take a serious look at the salaries of our county employees. I do believe an in-house study is appropriate, as was suggested today. We have qualified people on our staff that could help Mr. Carpenter with that study. But this is something that does not need to be rushed. I know that y'all probably all calmed down after the workshop today. We need to be methodical in that research and gathering that data. Department heads need to be involved. They need to be to present to Mr. Carpenter as to what a particular position entails, its importance, what qualifications are needed for that position to perform the task that that person holds. I agree with Mr. Connell. We need to integrate some private sector mentality when it comes to being able to adjust the salary of our outstanding employees every once in a while. To do this, you got to have a little cushion in your personnel budget. Some departments have it, some departments don't. What Mr. Carpenter presented today in the balanced budget that was presented today, I believe, in my opinion, was a cost of living raise. That's across the board. Some of you mentioned that you like the 3-2-1 scale. To me, that's a salary adjustment, which I believe is what kept us from taking a serious look at the pay structure from 2018-2019 fiscal year. I ask that you go forward with the 2% cost of living raise across the board this budget year, so that you can move things forward and devise a plan to do an in-depth salaries study to include the input of your department heads who present to you data and other credible proof of the importance of the position, the desired salary range, etc., giving you all the time to figure out a conservative way to pay the cost of these salary adjustments. Thank you for your time, and thank you for everything that you do for the county. That's all I needed to put that in your ear tonight.
Good to hear
you.
from you, Judge. Thanks so very much. And Mr. DeBose.
That concludes the sign-up list.
And that concludes the public comments. We move now to adoption of agenda. It's on the board in front of you and also on your electronic tablets. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tucker, and second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gardner. Any comments? The only question I have is, Jimmy, we were going to move to a vote when we get to your item. Is that correct?
Yes.
Good,
Mr.
okay,
Chairman.
good. All right.
When we get to it, I'll explain it.
Okay, but there is a vote there. Is that correct?
But it's under new business, Mr. Chairman.
That's a yes. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm going to call for a vote.
Good, thank you very much.
Proposal for sale of the wastewater treatment plant under new business
Good.
means I'm going to want to discuss. You don't want to wait. I'm going to have a discussion, and then I may call for another vote. Between now and then, I'll let you know.
All right, I see. With that, any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. And that's unanimous, Mary, and the agenda is approved. We move to now approval of minutes, tab A, and it's on the screen. Let's see. Can we move a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Mr. Gardner, a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Connell. Any discussion? Very good. There is no discussion. We move on now to a vote. All those in favor so signify. And it's unanimous. And we move on now to administrative updates and COVID.
Mr. Chair, members of council, as already previously been mentioned by the chairman today, there were 0 cases reported. That's the first time in many months in Kershaw County. You will see in front of you the 14-day rolling average. It has dropped down to 102 in the last 14 days. So it is by far the lowest it has been this calendar year. Again, the average daily COVID test, as we move to the middle of May, we are significantly below every other month so far this year. The vaccines are slowing down, but we have moved back up into 14th place again in the state for our recipient rate. But as you follow the news, you know that people are starting to slow down in receiving the vaccines. And then the total monthly cases, again, we've had 60 so far this month, which if we can continue this, this will be a very low month. So it's a good sign, good prognosis.
This is great news. Any questions, Mr. Tucker?
Mr. Carpenter, yeah, you are aware, according to the FDA and CDC, that may be able to do the 12 to 15-year-olds starting Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Wow, that's great. That's terrific. Okay.
That's the Pfizer shot, though.
Pfizer side, correct.
Yeah, Pfizer. Hey,
Mr.
Jen,
Chairman.
go ahead.
Something I haven't seen in the news at all that I think people should be aware of, it's just encouraging, is if you take the CDC survival rate and then you overlap that with the projected undetected and asymptomatic rate, it's really encouraging for overall survival rate. I mean, you're pushing high, 99.99. The calculation changes day to day based on actual diagnoses, but you don't hear that anywhere, and I think it's really encouraging.
It really is. Other comments? I see a COVID survivor in the audience. Good to have you here, Al. Thank
I
you,
have
brother.
a comment.
Yeah, Mr.
I want
Jones.
to thank Mr. Connell for that comment, giving us a real positive outlook on some of the reality of it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. And with that, I think we can move on to the first item on the agenda. Thank you, Vic, for all that good work. First item is an ordinance, first reading in title only for the budget year. Mr. Carpenter, would you just open that up, please?
Mr. Chair, members of council, as you know, by policy, we generally will provide the county budget, first reading title only, in order to start the legislative process. This morning, we did have a budget workshop for several hours where we went over the general fund, and we'll continue reviewing the rest of the budget next Tuesday on the 18th.
Very good. So can we have a motion to approve the first reading of the budget in title only?
Make a motion, we approve the first reading in title only.
Mr. Tucker, a second.
Second.
Mr. Connell, any discussion? Yeah, Mr. Snodgrass, sir.
I would just encourage folks that are listening and able to access everything online to go to the county YouTube channel, and you can find the previous budget workshops. And if you really want to dig into this thing, which I would encourage everyone to do that, go and watch the previous budget workshops and dig into it. And also I'm making myself available to not only constituents in my district, but all constituents that reach out to us, and we will be happy to kind of walk you through the budget. And but I thought it was very helpful that we broadcast all the workshops, and as a citizen, you can get in there, you can really dig in, and I appreciate how we've been we're always transparent, but we've been able to take it even a step further this year, so I appreciate that.
It's been a tough year. Mr. Connell, sir.
I just look forward to this budget cycle, really, because it represents a return to normalcy for us. I think we're able to dig in, and we've been working on budget sessions and getting to interact more with department heads and folks locally that are telling us what the needs are in the community so that we can consider them and try to accomplish as best we can. With that said, in my short time on county council, I think it's traditionally Mr. Gardner who leads off with the big number that's requested in all the various budgets from different departments, and then he says, this is what we're actually able to do. That's typically how it goes. The requests are much larger than what we're capable of. But in the work that we've done so far, I feel confident that we'll be able to accomplish those things that really matter, and just look forward to it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, other comments? Yep, we got some real meaty issues. I think we can move to a vote in title only, just remembering that we have a work session 10 o'clock on Tuesday next week, and then another work session 10 o'clock the following Tuesday on the 25th, and then, and this is for you, Tom, you were not there, and then, of course, the second reading of the budget in the evening on the 25th. So with that, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, Mary, and we move on to put that rock in your rucksack there, Vic, as they say in the military. Good luck. We have now new business. Item number 1 is a proposal for sale of wastewater treatment plant. There are no attachments. But over to you, Mr. Jones. You want to make the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will take it from here. the proposal to sell the wastewater treatment plant, I would like to, at this time, move for discussion of the agenda item. I will later make a motion for more official action. So, Mr. Carpenter, would you invite our guests up, please?
Now, we need a second, though.
I'm sorry.
Second.
Second by whom? Mr. Tucker. Any discussion?
If I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
would you mind inviting our guest up?
Sure, we have with us tonight Mr. Michael Carton from Southwest Water Utilities, and he has several people with him as well that he will use as he needs for backup. So, Mr. Carton?
All right, come on up. Welcome back. It's great to have you back in the team. And thanks for your advice to Mr. Carpenter in the last few months on capacity and other ideas. Please, sir.
Mr. I think we need to take our vote, don't we?
Yeah, we do, of
Yes, sir.
course. All those in favor signify by raising your hand, and we move into a discussion. Please.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
If you would, we've been talking about the sale of the wastewater treatment plant. It's something that I have been interested in many, many years. Could you just give us a scenario of how that could possibly work?
Sure. So Vic and I have been discussing this over the past few months per the council's request to work through Mr. Carpenter. And when we talked about how this process would work, I envision it as a 60 to 90-day process where we collaborate. I see this as a partnership. So we work collaboratively with the county to put together a people plan first. We want to create jobs, and then we need to put together a capital plan, and we need access to the facility. So I've never laid my eyes on the wastewater treatment plant, but I envision this process as us working together with county officials and employees,
Ms. Mike, could you pull the mic up just a little closer, please?
working together with county employees and officials and getting y'all's feedback to understand y'all's vision and the strategy on how best to meet the long-term needs for wastewater in this wastewatery portion of Kershaw County. So I see it as a collaborative process. I think it would take us 60 to 90 days probably to put together, evaluation plan, a people plan, and really get a better idea of what we're working with and take a look under the hood, as we call it. So that's how I see this process working, as a partnership and a collaboration to work together to see if it does make sense for Kershaw County to partner with South Carolina Water Utilities.
I have a couple of questions I'd like to lead off with, and I hope my colleagues will ask some of their questions that they were asking me the other night as well. Mr. Carpenter, feel free to fall in with Michael on answering these questions in case there's a difference of an opinion or whatever. Is it true that DHEC records indicate that we are at 90% capacity? And if we started today, how long would it take us to upgrade from a 2 MGD to a 4 MGD?
I don't know that we're 90%. We were closing to 80% last I saw. As far as the amount of time it would take to upgrade, that would really, I would depend on the engineers to tell me that. I don't know how long it would take to build a system. I know that in the past we have looked at, for the purpose of industry coming in, how quickly could we do it, and it's possible to get it done in about 12 months if we had to do it quickly. I can't tell you what a normal process, if that would add a month, 6 months, or whatever to that time frame.
So it would take us, you think maybe we could do it in 30 days?
To upgrade the plant? No, sir.
Yeah. So you're looking at, what, 6 months to a year, or
Well, you'd have to engineer it first, and then you'd have to go out for bid, and then you'd have to build it.
with your experience, how long? So just give me do you have an answer as to how long it would take us?
I would say at least 2 years from start to finish.
Correct, 2 years. What about if you were involved? By the way, let me ask you a question. You are South Carolina Utilities, correct?
South Carolina Water Utilities.
Water Utilities,
Correct.
okay. You're not Palmetto Utilities,
Correct.
okay? So,
We acquired Palmetto Utilities.
correct. 1985 was 35 years ago, too. Things change in life. How quick could y'all do an upgrade? Do you have any idea, without having looked at anything, or just basically what you've read?
Well, our facility right now has approximately 5 million gallons of capacity, so we wouldn't need to make any upgrades necessarily today to provide service to additional growth, which seems to be coming this way to Elgin. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of growth. People want to live here, they want to work here, and we could, we can provide it today. We have
Okay,
that capability today.
Okay. Let me ask, so we're looking at 2 years versus today. Let me ask another question. I know that there had been a number thrown out there, $12 to $15 million if we had projected to upgrade from 2MG to 4MG GD. Mr. Carpenter, do you know that because of time that has gone by, would it not be a higher number now?
I don't know that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
So it could be $20 million we're looking at that would have to come with to upgrade from a 2MG to a 4MGD. And I know we're upgrading our flow capacity with the Southern Loop. Let me ask you this, how much is it going to cost us to complete that flow capacity?
That's about a $7 million project.
$7 million, okay. So far, we have a plant 80 or 90% capacity, whatever it may be. We're looking at 12 to 15 million, probably 20 million to upgrade it. We're struggling right now trying to find money to upgrade our fire department. Then there are much other needs out there as well. Then we talk about how quickly it could be done, 2 years versus already available. The Southern Loop that we're working on, 7 million, that's something we wouldn't have to work on if we were to go into a partnership with a utilities company. Let me ask you this question, Mr. Carpenter. Can you tell me where we're going to be within the next 2 years with our flow capacity? Do you have any projected outcome on that?
Well, we'll be done with all the upgrades to the system. So our capacity in our conveyance system, it'll be designed to handle whatever we can anticipate is coming to us.
Okay. And I think we talked about this question in our work session this morning, our budget work session. When's the last time we had a sewer rate hike? It's been about 10 years, hasn't it?
Certainly before my time, I believe.
All right. Let me ask you, I think we need a comprehensive plan study. And I think that could be done relatively quickly, working with an outside agency. Mr. Carden, could you provide a study on rates staying the same with sewer if your company or whatever were to bid on this?
If this council wishes us to do so, absolutely. We could, like I said, in 60 to 90 days, do a comprehensive feasibility study, working collaboratively with Vic. We could certainly provide that as an alternative and show you what that would look like.
But here's what concerns me, and I'm going to stop and let my colleagues hopefully ask their questions to you as well. Here's what concerns me. It goes back to what I said. Our capacity's about there. We're going to have to upgrade. It will be close to $20 million probably. And I'll probably be sitting here when that study comes in to show that I'm right. So we'll have to find the $20 million from somewhere. And then we're looking at $7 million that we're going to have to spend on the loop, the upgrades. And then we're looking at 2 years to do our upgrade versus that if we work with a private company of some sort, we may could do it a lot quicker immediately. Who knows? At this time, I'll yield to my colleagues.
Let me first ask you to introduce your colleagues here. We'd like to welcome them too. Please, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So Greg Sorensen, our president.
Good to see you again, sir.
And Nicodemus Aboud works with developer and builder services.
All right. And Mary, have you got those names recorded, please? Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right.
My backup, yep.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, so Jimmy, what do you want to do now?
Well, I would hope y'all would have some questions to ask them, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
You said, is there any discussion? There were a lot of questions asked to me the other night when I was saying that I was going to try to set this up to bring these folks in so that we could get our questions answered by the professionals.
Okay.
So if you would.
I'll start off with, is there an offer on the table?
Today,
Is there a bid on the table?
no, not
Okay.
today.
Thank you.
What I would like is the opportunity to take a better look at these assets and understand what makes the most sense. We want to be part of the solution. If it makes sense and it's in the best interest of Kershaw County, then we'd like to propose that to you. We
Okay, I
are
just
interested.
want to clarify what we're looking at here, Jimmy. There's no offer and there's no bid on the table. Okay, gentlemen, please, Mr. Tucker.
I think we all knew that, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead.
Thank you. How you do, sir?
Good, how you doing?
Doing well.
Good to see you again.
Same here. I'm smiling behind my mask. We were talking about the study. What you think that cost would be to do that, and then who will eat that? Will that be billed back to the county, or will that be something that your company provides?
We would do our own internal valuation of the company, determine what we're willing to pay for it, and that would come on our dime. We have a deep roster of in-house civil engineers and financial modeling team and accountants and regulatory professionals. That would be on our dime.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Ben, go right ahead.
Mr. Carton was great. He took my call today. I think family or kids or somebody was running around in the background, but he made some time to talk to me. He was very accommodating and very open in some of the questions and comments that I had. Each deal has some pros and cons. And, you know, whether or not one can be made here, I'm interested to find out. I mean, I'd like to know. I don't know how to value a sewer system, as I told you on the phone. Just frankly, this is a new horse in the barn for me. I've never been involved in a sewer sale or valuing a sewer system. Starting off, hopefully this prompts us to actually do the sewer study we've been talking about. I've heard about it for a number of years, even before being on council. And in some ways, it feels like the digitization of our code. You know, we talked about it for many years, and then something kind of triggered it and pushed it over the edge, and we actually decided to fund it. I'd appreciate, of course, an in-house study, but I think just like any deal, Mr. Tucker, we want to have a third party or our own independent view on valuation as well. And then you can kind of average the two if you need to. One usually comes in high, one comes in low. Few of the concerns I have are, it's a private company, so you have shareholders. You're required to provide some type of rate of return on that. And since you are a sewer company, you know how to do it. That's, you know, you have a profit-making incentive to do it really well and efficiently. And the fact that we're even considering this would suggest that maybe you do it better than us. Maybe you do. I don't know. I'd like to learn a little bit more about that, but if you have a 7 to 9% rate of return, maybe 6% that you're trying to provide on equity to shareholders, those are profits that we wouldn't necessarily charge in the form of rates. And maybe you just are that much more efficient. I'd like to learn. I'd like to know. One of the things I think is really that could be attractive as a pro would be something you mentioned, and I was trying to articulate, but a non-exclusive franchise agreement where, at least from my perspective, one of the big concerns I have is control. If it comes to the time where you or I are not here, and at some point this council says, hey, it's in the best interest of Kershaw County to take a sewer line that way, however many 100 or 1,000 feet, and expand in these ways and accommodate a particular business or a residential area, and there's a disagreement with a private entity, well, we gave up the control. How do we rein that in? Is there a contractual clause or agreement we can come to on that point? And there may be. I don't know, but I would like to know. There may be. You could have buyback clauses, which we discussed today, that might make it attractive. It's possible. And then also, the relationship, I think, has been good under the new ownership at Palmetto Utilities or South Carolina Water Utilities, and it could be even better. Whether it's affluent that might be used for a prospective industry that comes in and maybe needs to cool something. Y'all have indicated a willingness to accommodate or work with something on that. Or even if the deal doesn't happen and the values aren't there for us to say, yeah, we want to undertake a sale, there's nothing to say you wouldn't be willing to make a margin per gallon if we needed a stopgap while we built our own facility. Say it was 2 years, as Mr. Jones or Mr. Carpenter may have commented, we could direct a certain number of gallons to you guys and you'd be making a margin per gallon if it assisted us. Was that something that could work?
Yeah, it's possible that could work. And speaking to the effluent, we're water people. That's all we do. And as stewards of the resource, that's absolutely something I want to explore with you guys. You know, water reuse is the future, and it has a great environmental component. You mentioned our shareholders. Our shareholders are very interested in protecting the environment. And that's one of our core values. So on that reuse water component, that's something I want to explore. I just think it makes sense. And I wanted to do this study because I think it makes sense for us to partner and work together. You know, we're uniquely positioned here in Kershaw County. I've done deals in various parts of the states. We entered with Kiowa Island Utilities. And that's obviously worked really well for us. And we made some commitments to Kiowa Island, which we've stayed true to. And that's just the type of people we are. So, but we're uniquely positioned here because we're employers, we're taxpayers, and we have the capacity and the infrastructure right next door in Kershaw County. So I just see this as unique compared to some of the other deals I've done. I think that's where a lot of the value can come. And I appreciate your kind words. It really is a privilege to serve here in Kershaw County. And we really enjoyed being here, and we look forward to being here for a very long time. I've lived here my whole life. And as I mentioned last time, if you remember, my president, Jack Europe, he actually relocated his entire family. So if y'all are concerned about our commitment to this community, he brought his 3 children, his mother-in-law. He brought his entire family here. So we're trying to do the right thing by the community and protect the resource and the environment. And like you said, this is all we do. We're incentivized to be efficient. And I think there's plenty of guardrails in place that we could do, and something that, I don't know what that looks like yet, but that's what hopefully an outcome of a study would show, that y'all can still control the growth, and we can provide our expertise and our resources to be a good partner. And I think it's something that's worth exploring.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just since I have the floor, I'll finish up. That's what's intriguing to me, is I want to determine if the value is there. There are some points where there could be some value. If we can retain control that satisfies this body to a necessary level for future purposes, that'd be interesting. Kiowa, there are no slouches down there. I'm sure they fully investigated it and vetted your company, and that's going to be one of my next calls is to some of their council members down there and representatives to figure out other considerations that they had. As far as a vote tonight, I wouldn't be able to vote in favor. I know we don't have a motion before us, but, I would support a rate study. I think we need to do that. We've been talking about it for years already. As far as, hey, let's go ahead and sell the sewer system, I just think that's premature and we don't know enough yet.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I would just want to follow up on a comment that you were asking. I want to make it clear that I am not promoting or recommending the sale of the treatment plant and sewer system to any one individual. I am only promoting and recommending that the treatment plant and sewer system be sold to eliminate the unfair sewer tax and provide for much-needed funds and better sewer service. The presentation is only to tell us how the sale of the sewer system could work for our county. Benefits of receiving much-needed funding and better sewer service. When I say better, I'm talking about the expansion.
Yeah,
I just want to make that clear.
that was a very helpful clarification, Jimmy, and that's why I asked if a vote was going to be proceeding, because in our minutes that we just approved from last time, it was quoted as Mary saying we're presenting an option to sell the sewer plant to a private entity, thereby freeing money to be used elsewhere. So that's consistent with what you just said.
Correct.
Okay, well, thank you. So we are going to get to a vote on a sale.
Yes, sir. You want to see if anybody else has any
Yeah,
questions or
just
comments? And I
that was
promise you,
very helpful.
I will get to my motion.
That was very helpful. Thank you. Who else next? Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, I'm giving a lot of thought to this. It may or may not make sense to you. It does to me. I think we got the cart before the horse, and my opinion is we're talking about doing all this, and as a council, we haven't had discussion amongst ourselves whether we even want to sell it or even a vote to that point. Yet we have a potential buyer essentially here talking tonight, and would we not have to open this to bid if we voted to do that? Would we not have other entities that would be interested in buying it, perhaps, Mr. Carpenter?
Are you asking Vic? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I can't tell you that anybody would be interesed, but we would have to put it out for bid for consideration.
I understand that. So to me, we're at a point where we're ahead of ourselves a little bit. I think that discussion amongst ourselves and then bring that to a vote and say, okay, yeah, we're interested in a sale. Now let's start talking about how we're going to do it. That's my personal feelings on it. The other part is and are we talking about selling it? Or are we talking about a collaborative agreement to work with somebody, because I'm kind of getting a read on both of those things here. And as we have a sewer tax, I'm concerned about those folks on that sewer line that are going to assume probably much higher rates, I would think, because we spread it out over our 70,000 people at $20 or $30 a month, roughly 1,700 customers, and then if you bring that into, rolling that into a few people, it seems to me that those rates are going to go up. Maybe I'm totally off base and totally wrong, but that's my thoughts on it. So,
Okay. Other comments? Mr. Tucker? Or Mr.
I have another
Snodgrass?
question. Michael, are you guys currently running Richland County Sewer?
We have acquired a portion of Richland County's sewer system, and just last year, the Public Service Commission did a thorough review of that and deemed that it was in the public interest. And they're very satisfied with our customer service and our rates and our operations. So it's been a proven success. They've done that for multiple deals that we've done in the past few years.
And that's majority in the northeast end of Richland County, am I correct? by
That's
saying
correct.
that? Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
If I
Mr.
may,
Snyder. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to remark on, try to clear something up that Mr. Gardner said. I think we're exactly where we need to be, because we are discussing the ifs and ands and hows and whys we would get into selling the sewer plant. And bottom line is, y'all haven't heard my motion yet. So when you hear that, I think that will answer all your questions, Mr. Gardner.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Snodgrass?
Sure. Thanks. Mr. Cardin, good to have you with us, and thanks for being here. A couple questions, but first, let me ask Vic a question. Talk about capacity. So what would precipitate us, I mean, obviously I know we're 80%, 90%, whatever, but what would be the big precipice that would put us needing to expand capacity quickly?
Obviously, new industry coming in.
New industry.
I mean, that, or a very, very large housing development that had plans on building very quickly.
Depending on what the industry is, who would help? I mean, would there be anyone to help us expand that sewer system, given an industry coming to Kershaw County that would precipitate that sort of demand?
As a rule, an industry that would be large enough, with enough investment to generate that much wastewater, would probably have state incentives, of which that would be on the table for the state to consider paying for.
Right. So we wouldn't be by ourselves trying to
Not
figure that out.
necessarily, no.
Not necessarily. Okay.
No. That's been the general practice and part of one of our bargaining chips with the state. When we had a big offer, sewer was a part of the bargaining place. Okay.
I'm not.
Anything
I'm
further?
sorry. Yep.
Okay.
And then, so let's talk about, these guys talk about wanting to look under the hood, so to speak, and I get that. Is there anything proprietary that with this industry that, okay, so, good.
It's
I
sewage.
understand. This is not something I deal in every day, so, I'm on a septic tank, so that's
At least on
pretty
ours. I mean,
simple.
if we were a private industry, then we might not want people in there, but we're a public entity, so there's.
Right, that's what I figured.
All right.
Mike, so let me ask you this. How do you think your company would react? So let's say we move forward with this, say you guys acquire, but at the same time or thereafter, we feel as a county, we feel that our growth is an unhealthy growth, is going too fast, and this council votes to put holds on building permits. How do you think your company would react to, you just acquired a plant, but now the county in which you're servicing is not building as many homes as you probably thought that they were going to build? Have you ever had to deal with that?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Council, appreciate the opportunity to speak real quick, and I'll say that.
How about identify yourself to the people,
sorry.
because there are people listening who want to know who you are. Go ahead.
Thank you, and I'll leave my card for.
No, but I'm
whoever.
just talking about the people
Yeah.
on Facebook right
Yeah.
now watching.
My name's Craig Sorensen. I'm president of South Carolina Water Utilities, and as Michael mentioned, a proud new resident of the state of South Carolina. So I wanted to, I'll speak to that briefly, and then return to a prior comment that you made that I'd like to add some thought to.
Yeah.
And what I would say is that as we look at a utility, and as we look at valuing a business, essentially what it is, we'll look at growth as one aspect of the value of that business, of that utility, but it's just one value. And currently today, at the capacity that the system is at 1.8 million or so average daily flow in a 2 million gallon plant, then there's not a lot of growth that we would bake into that. So I think that we would be coming into this understanding that there is not a lot of growth available in the existing facility. Now we could leverage the ownership of that facility and redirect flows into our existing facility, and I think that's where the efficiencies and some of the value can come in, and that would be at relatively low cost. And so I wanted to clarify that, and then we've talked broadly about capacity in the plant, and whether it's 80% or 90% or whatever the actual number is. That's average daily flow. And as anyone in the utility business will tell you, you deal with average daily flows, but you have to plan on peak flows. And so that is where I get nervous as a utility owner that once it gets into the pipe, it's ours, and we've got to find a way to treat it and meet the permit at the back end of the treatment facility. So if you've got 3 million gallons coming down the pipe during a wet weather event to your plant, and I'm not sure exactly what the wet weather flows are at the facility, but I will assure you it's higher than the average daily flow just by the definition of average. And so that is the piece that, as the utility guy in the room, that would concern me as the owner. So thank you.
But and I guess back to my original my question is, there's obviously a risk there. I mean, you guys are interested in a system in a county that is experiencing growth, but at the same time, while we welcome growth, I'm speaking for me, we're not interested in becoming Columbia Part 2. I mean, we're Kershaw County, we're Camden, we're Lugoff, we're Elgin. This is who we are. We're not interested in being like anyone's, partner in that. So sometimes even the growth, we want to be intentional. We want to be methodical with our growth, not just, hey, everybody show up and start building stuff. So I'm just curious how, how a private entity would have to react if you're basing your investment on something and then your customer base is maybe doesn't grow as much as you thought it was going to grow.
Sure, and I would say that absolutely the county would still control the growth by zoning or the methods and means that you have available mm-hmm. to you, permitting and all that, of which the wastewater piece is just one component. Yeah. Surely the utility would prefer more growth than less growth. We've got capacity available, and that would be preferable to us and improve our scale and capabilities to provide services at low cost. But that's not necessarily we have lots of utilities that don't have high growth rates.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. How long after you're in Hilton Head or Kiowa Island, correct?
Correct.
And then also up in Blythewood.
Correct.
And I asked this a couple months ago when you were here. How long after you acquired those systems did you see a need to increase rates?
Well, every deal is unique.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have a set time where we come in, but I think I touched last time we acquired Kiowa in 2016, and we were called by the PSC to come back in 2018 following the Tax Cut and Jobs Act mm-hmm. to reset our rates at a lower federal tax rate. So that Kiowa Island, maybe that's not the best example, but when you talk about Hilton Head, we're talking about Beaufort. So we're invested in Beaufort. We acquired 2 utilities down there, and their last rate increase was in 2015. Mm. And we've not yet brought them in. I think they'll need to come in soon, but everyone's unique. Yeah. And then the most recent one that we did was Kalawasi Island and Spring Island, which is down in Beaufort. And again, we work collaboratively with the POAs down there, held multiple meetings, sent out surveys, communication. We find a lot of value in that, and we agreed to stay out for at least 4 years at minimum before requesting an increase. And one thing about us being a private utility, we're completely transparent. I mean, you have full transparency with us at the PSC. So when we do need to come in for a rate increase, and it's been 5-6 years, we're an open book, and any citizen, especially the council, will be privy to all of our financial information and our earnings and all that. You know, we're completely transparent as a private utility. I think that, you know, regulation and these guardrails that the state has in place are important, and
Thank you.
we're interested in
Okay.
investing in regulated
All right,
utilities.
Russell, please.
I think I'm the only one who hadn't had anything to say. Thanks for coming tonight.
Sir,
Certainly a lot of questions to answer and a lot of things to think through. Couple of notes I've made. We've had some citizens that say, hey, we're on septic and we keep having to pump it. Would you guys be able to run to existing neighborhoods that were, say, 4 or 5 miles away from existing sewer? Would that intrigue you to run a sewer line, to knock on doors at existing houses and say, hey, we want to offer you sewer? Because some of the people have reached out to us and said, hey, we're on a septic system. We'd love to have sewer. What gives? Is that something that you would be interested in doing?
it is, and that's something I think that we should explore as part of this study. You know, what would that cost, and what is the desire of the citizens to really have that? And that's where I would lean on you and Vic, because y'all have y'all's finger on the pulse of this community, and you can help us understand if that's really what the people want. But absolutely, and you know, I understand their concerns. I mean, septic tanks they have limitations, and they're not necessarily the most environmentally friendly system, and that's something we would explore as part of this. You know, I think we would be looking for you to give us some direction and part of the study to say, well, what does that look like? And we could absolutely explore that and see what it looks like. But that's something we'd be interested in, yeah.
So that's something that's happened in other locations. Y'all have come in and bought a place, an existing sewer system, and then provided services to existing customers?
I've seen it happen, and
Or existing homeowners, I'm sorry.
correct. And, you know, one of the biggest roadblocks I've seen with that is they want to tie in, but they don't want to pay for their service line. So we own the mains and the distribution lines, but once you get to that water meter, on that other side of the water meter, that's your property. So it would require some investment on the homeowner to tie into our system and pay their portion of the capacity to ensure that they're not adversely impacting any of our other existing customers in Kershaw County.
At that point, would there be a fee as well as running pipe? Would it also be a fee to tap on?
Yes, we have impact fee, tap fees for $1,000 for new connections.
Okay, so it's $1,000 currently?
$1,050, correct.
Okay. So I don't know what our average sewer bill is or if it's done for 1,000 gallons. How was y'all's average residential bill compared to ours?
For the old Palmetto utilities that we acquired, the bill is right now $55 flat rate per month. So it's not based off of water consumption. Again, when speaking with Vic, he said that he'd like to see a proposal of what it would look like to keep existing Kershaw County utility customers' rates the same. What would that look like for some period of time? But our rates right now are based off of a flat rate. It's not based off of consumption. So you don't see your bill spike when you're filling up your swimming pool or irrigating.
So I think we make exceptions for those things. We talked about that this morning in budget. Since you and Vic have had some conversation, what is our average sewer bill?
$35 to $40.
Okay, so we're looking at $20 more a month.
That could be one of the
35 to 55.
alternatives we look at, but I don't think that would ever pass this council based off my discussions with all of y'all and with Vic. It would need to be some sort of
Vic.
proposal where those rates stay the same for some period of time, but we would be allowed to expand our service territory to where the growth is coming in Elgin, right next to where we have a lot of capacity. And so we have the ability to keep those existing rates the same for some period of time, but bring on new customers who are not currently Kershaw County utility customers at our existing rate.
So you would treat customers differently?
Correct. We have customers all over the state that have different rates.
Let me finish a train of thought real quick, if I may.
Sure.
Vic, do we, as a business model, our sewer, does it make a profit? I know the word profit's improper, but is there a positive cash flow?
Yes, sir.
Is it a goal? Can we set a goal if, say we didn't sell, or maybe we partnered, or maybe we, you guys end up helping us with a piece of it? Certainly being open-minded here. Is there a way to relieve ourselves of the sewer tax that our citizens pay? It's such a nuisance. Is there a way for our system to be self-sustaining like theirs is?
Yes, sir. I mean, as important now, we haven't done a rate study in a long time, so it's certainly possible that we could do a rate study that would include everything from refinancing the remaining debt on the sewer plant using rates to pay it versus millage, all the way to including any necessary capital costs as well.
So how many customers do we have?
Roughly 1,700 plus. That's all. That's commercial, that's industrial, as well as residential.
Okay. Couple more questions. Thank you. Couple more questions I was just curious about. You answered one of them. You've got 5 million gallons per day of capacity. Is that right?
Correct. We have approximately 5 million gallons per day capacity available.
Would you be willing to commit to expand to our mega site and to all of our areas that we have industrial parks?
Absolutely.
I mean,
It's something that we could do. We have the capacity today, and that's something that we'd like to explore. I think it makes a lot of sense.
I think a question would be, would you be willing to provide the service to those sites without any infrastructure cost to us,
To us being,
the county?
I think we, as part of the study, I think it's going to be extremely important that we look at providing service to that industrial park. I understand that's something that's very important to every person on this council, so absolutely. If a customer was coming, a lot of this stuff is speculative, right? We don't know who's coming, when's coming, are they going to be a huge user? I'm copied on inquiries that Vic is, where they're looking for 4 million gallons a day capacity. Absolutely we can do that, and we can do it quickly. And
Okay.
we'd love to serve.
If you guys were to take the reins and buy the sewer plant, would we have any say as to where the lines will run for residential growth, or would that be your call completely?
No, I would look for the council to really direct your constituents to tie on, if they so choose, and we would run lines there, and partnership.
Let me rephrase. New development.
Yeah.
For new development, we're a bedroom community, especially Elgin, for folks working in Columbia. If a big national builder came in and, we wanted to build 300, 400, 500 houses, I think to Mr. Snodgrass's point, if we said, whoa, that's maybe a red flag and we want to check on this and see if that's something we can do, would we have conversations before you ran that sewer line for them, or would you be able to just run that sewer line without council's consent?
No, we would need council's consent, and I think that we would come to an agreement that y'all still control the zoning and the planning of residential development. And like you said, obviously we want growth, but one of the advantages we have against other utilities across the country is that our objective, we're a long-term perpetual hold strategy, so we can afford to wait for the growth to come at a response. We don't have to get 1,000 connections every year like we're seeing on different parts of town. Like, we have the ability, we're without a sunset horizon in our investment strategy. So as a long-term hold strategy, that provides us the ability to wait for responsible growth to come online. We're not focused on short-term capital gains. We're focused on generating future cash flows.
Okay, thank you. I think that's everything, all the notes I had. Thank you for your time.
Other comments?
Thank you.
Let me make a couple. Jimmy?
No,
wanna
you
say
go
something
ahead, 'cause
further?
I'll follow up after you.
Yeah,
do.
that's great. Welcome back, like I said. And to
Thank
your
you.
point, sir, the last time we met with Mr. Carton, we turned to Vic and said, look for ways to collaborate. Correct, Vic? And that discussion, such as you just laid out, is scenario-based planning on industrial sites and things of that nature. And that shows what you can do when you put two professionals working on a common problem. And it's very much within Vic's charter to find the best deal. Whether we do that or whether you do that in Southwest Water or other people. And I commend you and Vic for being professional and working a good solution for all of our issues. And I assure you that's what Vic is motivated by. And I've talked to Vic about it too, and we'll find the best deal on sewer and other things. As when we're starting to put together many of the industrial site packages that we do and with Jeff Burgess and his team, that happens.
Thank you, Chairman.
And that needs to continue to go forward, and I thank you for that. For me, much of this discussion is captured in the word, your title of Southwest Water. Why is it called Southwest Water? Because that's a Texas-owned organization?
Yeah, so we've been in business for 130 years. We're very proud of, and yeah, our company started in the Southwest. I wish we were called Southeast Water Company probably, because I'm born and raised here.
Well, change the name.
Yeah, well, we're South Carolina Water Utilities, but Southwest Water comes from our shareholders, which we do draw on our resources outside of Houston, Texas, and sugar outside of Houston, Texas, for things like IT. I mean, Chairman Burns, I know with your background, you're very aware of cyber threats out there, so we rely on our folks in Texas to help us with IT and billing and things of that matter, customer service.
Yeah, it brings a lot of power that you are a corporate entity. But my point here is it's a Southwest entity, and then you're further owned by a company, I think, investors in New York. Is that correct?
We are owned by an infrastructure investment fund, which is advised by J.P. Morgan's asset management group.
That's correct. So my point there is we're delighted you're local, delighted your president is local, but corporate decisions are not made here. And in our previous round with Palmetto Utilities, which was, I believe, Packlet Milliken, they said that they were here for 40 years, and now 3 years later, we have a new owner. That's my point. And so I'm talking about who I deal with, who we deal with, is a corporation that's remote from this site, and I'm concerned about local responsiveness. We do everything by buying local, and I appreciate that you're here, but corporate decisions are made somewhere else, okay? That would be, to me, no question. Secondly, it's water, so I'm staying with the name, the theme of your name. So you provide water as well as sewer or just sewer?
In this area in Kershaw County, we treat water.
Correct.
And put it back into the environment in environmentally compliant, safe fashion. But we provide drinking water in other parts of the state and other parts of the country.
Well, can you tell me where those are?
Yes, we provide drinking water to all the residents on Kiowa Island,
All right.
Harbor Island Utilities, and Kalawasi Island, Spring Island. We provide all the drinking water to those, our customers down there.
Right. So have you thought about addressing the Lugoff-Elgin water as a utility? I mean, you don't have to divulge corporate policy, but that's certainly within your job description and your title.
I gotta let Mr. Sorensen speak.
Okay, Mr. President. Mr. President.
I didn't put enough color on it.
That's right.
I was just going to stand up and say that we're interested in providing water and wastewater services where we feel it makes sense. Right now, we see a tremendous opportunity to partner with the county in our area where we are currently with Palmetto Utilities and the business that we've just purchased. The location of our assets connected to the growth area and the areas of the county that need to be served, we think that is a tremendous, no-brainer fit. And so that's what we've focused on. We've not paid any attention to looking at any number of the water utilities in the state of South Carolina beyond which where it makes sense.
Yeah, have you talked to Lugoff Water?
We deal with Lugoff Water, commonly. But we've never discussed acquiring them or anything like that.
And you haven't discussed that acquiring us either. So that's my point here is that you are a water company that does sewer and water, And the prospect that worries me is someone who has all the utilities in the Lugoff-Elgin area, and that concerns me in terms of how we as a county shape our future. And so I'd have to express that as a larger issue here. All right, well, thank you. And then I want to talk about immediacy. In the sewer plan that I've been briefed on, that's been around for a while and probably needs updating, there is an engineering effort that goes against upgrading our sewer, and that has to start in the next year or two. But Mr. Carpenter, in your view, are we in a crisis mode now, or do we have time to work this through?
Well, DHEC requires when you hit that 80% that you start the process of engineering. So we're in that range where we have to start engineering our expansion. As was mentioned earlier, our average daily flow is a good bit less. It's 800,000 to 1 million gallons a day is our average daily flow. You do have peak events. We all remember the 2015 flood, but even in that one, we never exceeded capacity or had any spills from that flood, which we're actually one of the few utilities in the state that could say that. So, crisis is generally a matter of immediacy. We know that we need to be engineering and we need to be looking at long-term solutions. But as far as an immediate issue, we have capacity in the system of the plant right now for daily flows. And as we upgrade our conveyance system, that's where our most pressing needs have been, is the conveyance system, where we had degrading pipes and we had pipes that were too small for the flow that was coming in that direction. And as we add the southern loop and we can reroute flow, so we're not putting 100% of the flow through one set of pipes, then that takes the pressure off that part of it, which is our immediate set of urgency, was getting our conveyance system in control.
I watched with a great deal of admiration what Packlet Milliken did in putting in new pipes and anticipating water events and growth. And so I think you've done that as well. So, and I think Southwest Water inherits that very fine system. So over and above, I think between you, Vic, and collaboration with Southwest Water, we have solutions that are really quite optimum. And that, secondly, I disagree with the portrayal that this must be done right away. I think we have time and deliberate approach, and that's what I'm hearing here. Not a crisis, not a rush, within capacity, and with engineering to be done. This could be brought before council in the next 2 years or so. So that's, Vic, is that basically what you're seeing?
Think
Yes,
about
sir.
it.
Yes, sir. In the sewer proposal for the budget, we'll be putting in funds to do an engineering study on the plant expansion.
There you go.
So we can get the engineering done in this current budget we'll be discussing.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jimmy, for bringing this up. Go right ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the questions, you guys engaging these folks. At this time, I'd like to, and I want, please listen to me carefully. At this time, I'd like to make a motion, because this is going to go in the same direction that some of you have talked about here tonight. I'd like to make a motion for county council to authorize the administrator to provide alternatives to council for the sale of sewer treatment plant and sewer system, as well as the necessary steps.
Wait a minute, Jimmy. Mr. Brazel's just coming right back in. Do you mind starting over?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. Jimmy's making a motion.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brazel, as I told council, you weren't in here, that listen to my words carefully the way I make this motion, please. I think it answers some of your questions on council. I make a motion for county council to authorize the administrator to provide alternatives to council for the sale of sewer treatment plant and sewer system, as well as the necessary steps and procedures to sell the treatment plant and sewer system. That's a motion, which could be a comprehensive study as well. Go ahead.
All right. Mary, you got that? Okay, Jimmy can give that to you.
I'll say it again if you want me to.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure Mary's got the verbatim. All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Tucker, a second. All right, Mr. Jones, open for discussion.
Okay, thank you so much. I've heard a lot of concern tonight about rate hikes. I think Mr. Carlson made it very clearly there would not be an immediate rate hike. There's going to be a rate hike where it stays with Kershaw County or goes anywhere else eventually down the road. That's just life and the way it happens. I would hope that this county council would be as concerned this year about creating new fees and creating new millage, trying to get the cap taken off of Act 388 so we can jack it up as high as we need to service a service, that they are about rate hikes. There's no fear that the rate hike is going to break anybody. These guys are professionals. They have done a great job with their company. So basically, this is what I'm asking, to authorize the administrator to provide alternatives to council for the sale of the sewer treatment plant and sewer system, as well as the necessary steps and procedures to the sale of the treatment plant and sewer system.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Which they would have to bid on, or if it was deemed there's a sole source. But bottom line is you'd have to go through procurement, and I understand that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of County Council.
Mr. Tucker, you did the second?
Yes, sir. I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, other comments? Mr. Snodgrass?
Mr. Carpenter, if you as county administrator, under the advisement of our wastewater treatment director, felt that you needed to provide alternatives to us moving forward, wouldn't that be within your purview as administrator to say, this is what I'm seeing, this is what we're looking at, we would like for you to consider this?
I mean, yes, sir, it would be. I think Mr. Jones is, as I'm understanding it, what it would direct me to do is to probably come up with every alternative we could think of. So council has a full range in front of you to consider in addition to the steps you would take if you chose to sell it. So I think, as I understand his proposal, we would probably give you more alternatives, some of which we might discount initially ourselves, but by doing this way, you can see every alternative we can come up with. So you'll have more options in front of you.
But at the end of the day, if you felt that the situation was dire or urgent and you as administrator were trying your best to operate the county with the best solution possible, I mean, you could explore these options.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Ben, please.
I want to make sure I understand the motion. It was unclear to me. I mean, I think Mr. Carpenter's, what you just shared kind of suggests that, the way I heard it, alternatives to the sale.
Yes, sir.
So you'd be presenting other alternatives beyond just the sale. It'd be any alternative of how the sewer system in Kershaw County could be handled going forward.
That's how I interpreted that part of the.
That's what I heard. Is that your intention with your motion?
Listen, I cannot recommend any certain one company. We have procurement to go through. I've asked this council to ask this administrator to authorize him to provide alternatives to council, which include this and others, as far as the sale of the treatment plant and sewer system, as well as the necessary steps and procedures to the sale of the treatment plant and sewer system. And since you asked me a question, I want to say this. Here's what we're faced with, guys. We're faced with $20 million. It's going to hit us square in the face. We're faced with the sewer debt that we have on the bond with $6.5 million, whatever. You know, these are things that I just think we could avoid if we move in this direction.
Let me just make it sure I'm clear, because I didn't see in addition to alternatives. I saw alternatives for the sale of.
Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, would you please?
Okay, I will. I make a motion for county council to authorize the administrator to provide alternatives to council for the sale of the sewer treatment plant and sewer system, as well as the necessary steps and procedures to sell the treatment plant and sewer system. And understand, he brings that to us, we can vote it down.
Yeah.
We're asking him to do some homework.
So it is about sale, Ben, is what I read, not alternatives to the sale, but sale. Okay. Ben, back to you, sir.
You know, my earlier comments were, I think we need to do a rate study. I think that is where we need to start internally.
Amen.
I'd like to work with y'all on understanding where the value is. Because, well, unless there's some night job I'm not aware of for the council members up here, none of us really know that much about sewer. And I would rely on Vic or Russ to make recommendations about your evaluation or ours internally. Yeah, so I don't know that I can support the motion, and plus to me, generally, it's vague. So, for that reason, I couldn't support it tonight, but I do think we need to do a rate study. But I'm not making a motion to amend the motion.
Okay.
I think you've already got it in the budget to look at engineering on sewer expansion.
Yeah.
Would you need a motion from us for a rate study?
It'll be proposed in the budget. So
We
if you
could do
approve
that
the
as part of
budget,
the
it's
budget.
I
included.
think we had a rate study about 15, 20 minutes ago. We're at 35, he's at 55.
Well, I think it's a little more.
It doesn't get a whole,
Well, it's a little more.
Let's not
Well,
make
since
it
everybody's
difficult.
chiming in, let me say this.
Hey,
Well,
come
I
on,
think I
guys.
still have
Come
the
on,
floor.
guys.
No, no,
Pine
no.
Grove
I'm
Ben's
going to
got
say
the
this.
floor. Ben's got
That
the
is
floor.
that is
Chairman, I
an
think I still
unfair
have the
statement by
floor.
Mr. Brazel.
Ben's got the floor.
Your point's taken, Russell, but I think we've been at that rate for, was it 10 years?
At least.
So
Yeah.
separate from South Carolina Water Utility even being in the room, we got to understand what should the rate be, and are certain people being inequitably or equitably charged based on the rate?
5450.
And then, was that you figured it out?
Russell, let's stay inside of discipline here. Go ahead, Ben.
But
And if you add that sewer tax that's charged on top of your sewer rate,
yeah, there's so much
Much
more
more
that
comparable.
personally, so much more, gentlemen, that I need to understand about how a sewer works, and I feel like I've got to get some more building blocks before I'd want to consider alternatives for sales and or whatever was encapsulated in the motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other comments? I think,
Yes.
Jimmy, if you want to go ahead.
I want to say something else. This gentleman stood up here tonight, and he made it perfectly clear there would be no rate hikes if this council so saw fit, if his business were to partner. Because we can control that. So I just want everybody on here to remember, when you're talking about 35 and 55, they're willing to stay at the 35 for 4 or 5 years or whatever. Things always have to go up. You don't believe it, look how much a hamburger cost you 10 years ago, look how much it'll cost you now. And so I think to throw that at them is very unfair. And our mission statement, Mr. Carpenter, do you know what our mission statement says in Kershaw County? Just basically.
That essentially it is our mission to provide quality services to the citizens of county.
Work with the private sector.
Yes.
Okay. And we talk about how good of a job government does running things. I just tell you folks, look at healthcare, look at the post office. UPS was created out of that. And we could go on, but I would ask y'all to consider this tonight, to ask the administrator to go out, and I'm not going to harp on it anymore, to go out and to provide us alternatives for the sale and all necessary steps and procedures. It doesn't mean you've got to do it. It just means we're finally going to figure out what we have so we can understand that we're not going to be putting $7 million into a southern loop, $20 million into an upgrade. I plan to be here. I'm running again. And I will remind each person, when we start hitting the high dollar marks of the expansion of our plant and the lines, I'm going to keep up with the figures. I'm going to be bringing them forth to the public. But anyway, thank you, gentlemen, for your time.
Mrs. Snodgrass, sir.
Just before we vote, just want to say, I want to let you guys know that please know that we value you as a corporate citizen. I'm speaking for me. I value you guys, and I know all these guys do as well, as a corporate citizen. I think at this point, I won't be able to support the motion tonight just because I feel like we're at step 3 or step 4 in this process, and we didn't even do step 1 or 2. And but obviously, just want to make you aware that we value you guys as a corporate citizen, and just appreciate all that you do.
All right, well, very good. I think we're at the point of vote, and I thank you, Jimmy, for your passion on this issue. It's characteristic of you to have done your homework, and also I appreciate the professional level of discussion by you and Mr. Sorensen. So we have the motion to authorize us. Jimmy, would you restate it so we vote on it one more time?
I will. The motion states that we will ask the county administrator, will authorize him to provide alternatives to the council for the sale of the sewer treatment plant and sewer system, as well as the necessary steps and procedures to the sale of the treatment plant and sewer system.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah,
If I could, I was going to say, to Jimmy's credit, this might be an appropriate motion, in my view, in 60 to 90 days. I think we've heard from the speaker tonight that there's so much more that has to be learned before they could even be presented as an alternative. I mean, Vic, if he wanted to, and plus there's no time frame on when the alternatives, I guess, would be presented, but say couldn't do it by next meeting, certainly couldn't do it in 60 to 90 days, but it might be appropriate motion in the future. I think the conversation tonight has been really useful, and it's gotten me up the learning curve, some on sewer, which I needed,
Absolutely.
so I appreciate that.
And Jimmy, in that sense, it's been a great service. So with that, we move to a vote. All those in favor of Mr. Jones's motion on the sale signify by raising your hand. It's Mr. Jones, and all those opposed signify by likewise by raising your hand. It's Mr. Connell, Mr. Burns, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Tucker, and Mr. Snodgrass. Mr. Brazel?
I'll abstain.
Mr. Brazel, do you have a reason to abstain?
There's good and bad on both sides, and I'm just conflicted.
Mr. Brazel abstains, and so the motion fails, and we can move to the next item. Thank you very much,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman.
Yeah.
Before we move off subject here, I want to make sure that we're giving clear direction to our administration and also discuss another motion for sewer, since it's on there for,
And we haven't closed out the opening discussion, so we'll have to do that in a minute. So go ahead. You can make an amendment if you wish.
well, you just voted, it's nothing to amend, you just voted on the.
Well,
Yeah,
so we're a little bit out of protocol. I don't understand where you want to take this, Sammy.
I'm making a motion on the sewer. Hear me out, and I'll give it to you. I want to.
So I just want to tell you where I think we are as chairman. We're still in the discussion phase that Jimmy initiated. We've closed out the motion on the sales.
Right.
So Jimmy, I think we'll defer to
I
Mr.
will yield to Mr. Tucker.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. Tucker, go right ahead and
Thank
make
you,
a
Mr.
motion.
Chairman. I would like to make a motion that the administration explore, examine methods to expand, improve, and finance the Kershaw County sewer system and plant to meet the present needs and future growth.
Do you have a timeline on that, Jimmy? Sammy?
Administrator will take care, when he gets it done, he'll bring it back to us.
All right, can we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Discussion, Sammy?
Well, this gives clear view for the administration to go out and do their due diligence, like, the engineering studies, talking to potential buyers such as South Carolina Utilities, I guess that's what you call yourselves.
South Carolina Water Utilities, yes.
South Carolina Water Utilities, I did write that down.
That's all right.
All these names, and other interested entities, and come up with those different options. The thing with Mr. Jones's motion was for sale. I'm not asking him to prepare to sell the plant. I'm asking him for all the options that this this county may have with the sewer plant to improve, grow, and partner if that's what's best. I don't know what all he will find into moving forward, but we do want to report back on what our options are. And that could be several months from now. It may be next budget cycle. I don't know. I'm not putting a timeline on it because I don't know what all you need to do and have to do. And I want you to do due diligence.
It seems to be what you were talking about, Ben. You had the second, Mr. Jones.
If I may, thank you. Mr. Tucker, are we sort of talking about a comprehensive feasibility study?
Yes, sir. Yes,
I think that's very reasonable, your motion. After my motion failed, I appreciate you moving in that direction.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Other discussion, Mr. Connell, please, Ben.
I would view the motion as unnecessary based on Mr. Carpenter's communication tonight that he already plans on putting in front of us in the budget engineering for expansion. So they've viewed that as necessary to comply with DHEC requirements. And so he's already got it in the budget. And then I think I heard him say a little while ago that he's going to have in the budget the rate study issue as well. So those contemplate growth, I would think. So I think we've already got it covered. I think we've given that direction in the past, and he's already acting on it by putting those items in the budget.
It's never been in a formal motion.
Thank you.
And that's what I'm doing tonight. And it doesn't cover partnering with South Carolina Water Utilities and any other potential buyer. So it's not covered. And we have not, as a council, voted to give him the directions where we want to go.
That may be, but I think that they've already been doing it via almost like unanimous consent, because I've heard Vic and Mr. Carton say multiple times they've been communicating about values. And I don't know. That's how I read it.
I agree they're on their way,
Well,
but what I'm telling you is
You're
that
next.
it's a direct order to administration.
Okay.
If I
Mr.
may,
Jones, please.
I remember when we were how do I want to do this? I can remember when we were updated on the sewer, we said, where did this come from? We just heard about it. You know what I'm talking about, Mr. Tucker? So we didn't know, and we don't know. And I think your motion is very appropriate. It's just asking, charging an administrator to do basically a feasibility study. And that's what we need, because you know and I know we've been caught off guard in the past, correct or not? Yes or no?
We've been informed, I'll just say like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Snodgrass.
I get, whether it be our clerk or, so I feel like these two motions are two sides of the same coin. Or
There's no sale in my motion.
but your motion didn't have the word sale in
Yes,
it, did
it
it?
did.
It
Yes,
did?
it
Okay.
To bring us back information as to the sale of the treatment plant wastewater sewer system, which we could have still voted down when he brought it back to us. So therefore, a lot of the comments to me didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right, which is kind of why because
All right.
It is.
All right. So we've heard the discussion, and we have the motion. And Mary, you've had it recorded. Sammy, you want to restate it just to make sure everybody understands, since the word sale is not apparently in this motion necessarily.
And let me say before I restate it, Mr. Chairman, if you're not comfortable, vote your heart and your conscience. I'm not going to defriend you off Facebook and block you and all that stuff. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
Let's do what we have to do. I make the motion that the administration, I didn't say administrator, the administration, because it involves your engineers and all your staff folks. So I want to make sure that's clear. Explore and examine methods to expand, improve, and finance the Kershaw County sewer system and plant to meet present needs and future growth.
Okay. All right. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it is Mr. Snodgrass, Mr. Tucker, Mr. Gardner, Mr. Burns, and Mr. Jones. And those opposed? Mr. Connell and Mr. Brazel.
Still abstaining.
Okay, interesting. All right, Mr. Brazel abstains. So with that, I would like to move on out of this discussion. We have been into a
Thank you, Mr.
discussion
Carter.
motion.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the council, for the opportunity to
Thank you,
speak
Michael.
today.
And with that, I think I don't need to have a motion to come out of discussion, but I think we can move ahead, Jimmy, if that's all right with you.
Fine with me.
All right, now we move to the next item on the new business, which is an airport runway. It's at tab B, and also in your electronic book at page 7. Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, you have in front of you tonight for approval a project to rehab our main airport runway 6-24. This is an FAA funded grant project. It's approximately 62,000 linear square yards of material that needs to be done. The low responsive bidder is from Boggs Contracting of Monroe, North Carolina for $1,657,177. The county's percentage of that would be 5% match.
5% match. And did you have a map just to talk? We'll get to that once we get the motion. Can we have a motion to approve?
So made.
Thank you, Ben. A second?
Second.
All right, sir. Over to you, Vic, to further information about this project.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of council, this is was the number one on priority for the airport on the 5-year plan that is updated each year and submitted to the FAA. They have indicated their intention to fund it, though obviously it must be funded in federal budgets. If it is not, this bid then is not issued. But assuming the feds fund it, then you would go in and rehabilitate So they'd dig it up and then resurface the entire stretch of the main runway.
Very good. With that, we'll move to discussion. Who had the first on that? Ben, please, you want to lead off?
Sure. I was just wondering, how long would the project take? That runway would be down for approximately how long?
Danny, do you recall that?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, and then our 5% match is contingent on the federal government committing the funds and
Yes, sir.
having the, okay.
We don't have to pay if they don't pay.
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, I support this primarily. You heard Mr. Carpenter say it was one of the number one things, if not the number one thing that they need done out there.
Yeah.
But also, we've got other issues that will be falling behind between the hangars, and I think we took care of drainage and field issues, was it last 3+ years or so?
Yeah.
So this is the next one on the list that we need to take care of if we want to attract industry and stay relevant in that way. This is one of the big things that economic development tells us people look at.
Yeah,
as well.
this is our front porch, as Ben was saying. This is where CEOs get their first impression of our county. Let me just make sure the Airport Commission will need to go back and review their priorities. Of course, they don't give us priorities, but they advise us on that. I want to make sure they're up to speed on this and the next steps.
So they met last night, and they're up to speed. They're
Thank
very
you.
involved in what we're doing.
Somehow I knew you'd do that. Who had the second on that?
I did, Mr. Chairman.
Sammy?
I'm good, thank you.
Other comments?
Just
Yeah, Jimmy,
quickly,
please.
dealing with the grant to 5%, where would that come from?
Because it's an economic development project, we take it out of the Economic Development
Okay.
Fund.
And that amount would be?
Roughly about $100,000.
Just wanted to hear it again. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Other comments? I have one particular, and that is there a way we can work in corporate jets and other things if they need to find time in there and landing if we get a big event?
During the 15 days when it's closed? No, sir.
Okay. So once started, we're gone. And so that my second question is like unto it is there a penalty or is there an incentive for them to finish early or not, or a penalty if they don't? Okay, so fellas, I think Danny's got it pretty well wired, at least in my view.
Do we have experience with bogs?
Boggs is, yes, sir. Yeah, they do a lot of work for the state of South Carolina. They're one of the major contractors in the southeast.
So you're
They're
satisfied
very
with
reputable. Yes, sir.
the quality of their work?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, can we take it to a vote, or there's no further discussion? All right, well, very good. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. There, it's unanimous. Thanks a lot, Danny and Vic. That's good work. Thank you very much for our front porch. With that, we go to council briefings. There's no need to go much further. Starting with you, sir.
I have
No comments.
briefing today.
Mr. Brazel, Mr. Connell?
Yes, sir. Hopefully, this is, again, a semblance of returning to normalcy. We've got Yak the River coming up on 5/15/21 this Saturday. I'll be out there with my family. I've got a lot of folks in the community who are saying they're looking forward to getting out there. Appreciate the Recreation Department and also the Mulliken Law Firm through their various eco companies or projects sponsoring and helping with that. And then you have the Carolina Cup coming up the next weekend, so that'll be before our next meeting on 5/22/21. And again, that'll make Kershaw County feel a lot more like normal.
Jimmy?
Thank you, Julian. Listen, Judge, thank you so much for your words tonight. I'm with you. I'm with the employees. I think everybody up here is as well. And we need to do this the right way. And things that you recommended is the right way. And I appreciate those comments. Once again, I know there's a lot of litter pickup going on this coming Saturday morning all over the place, all over Kershaw County. But I'm very proud of Steve Zobel, as I said in the work session today. But I was going to call his name out for going around in his golf cart with his cast on his leg, handing out flyers. And he designated my residence as a meeting place out in the front. by the road. So I informed my wife that we definitely could not go to the river to kayak with our kayaks in the back if people were meeting in our front of our house. But no, we plan to participate with that, and we're so proud of what the Clean Community Commission has done. And that's all my comments for the night.
Thank you, Jimmy. Ms. Snodgrass?
Sure. I want to just share comments based on a lot of the sewer discussion, and I still feel, even though I voted on the prevailing side on that one motion, I still felt like that was certainly within the administrator's purview, but at the end of the day, I am looking forward to exploring options, and a part of those options, and I've talked to the administrator about this, and I know Councilman Brazel, you've expressed this, and hopefully those options are to take a look at the sewer tax, to take a look at that sewer millage that many people who don't have the ability to maybe get on the sewer as easier as others to see how we can restructure that so that's not there. So just want to share that and just make folks aware that I am aware of that, and that's hopefully in voting with you on that. Those are some of the options that we're gonna come back to. But good discussion, and just for me, I'm always looking not so much what the immediate gratification may be, but perhaps being able to go into the future 20 years, 25 years, and be able to say, what we did 25 years ago, was that a good or bad decision? So, and that's not always easy, but that's where we're going to. That's part of how I process a very serious subject like the subject of the sewer. So that concludes my report and my remarks. Thank you,
Mr. Tucker.
Thank you. I just want to say a couple quick things. Councilman Bozark, good to see you, man. It's been a little while. I'm glad to see you up and out and moving, and I hope that you and your family continue to stay healthy. I just want to say thank you to all of you guys up here for a vote of confidence into our administration, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised whenever we come back with a report from our administration on some of our options that we can do with the sewer. So with that concludes my report.
Thanks, sir. As always, Mr. Gardner.
No report.
And I'll conclude real quickly. Al, great to see you. I saw your ears perk up when we talked about airports. And Judge, our esteemed probate, the best probate in South Carolina, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your advice on personnel pay rises. To Ben's point, it does almost feel like normal. Absolutely. I'm just going to recite a couple of things that I saw happening, and it just brings joy to your heart to know that we've got state of the county to Thursday. We opened the Elgin Park that Mr. Connell had a great deal to do with, and Shane Duncan took care of for us. That's on the 14th. On the 15th, Yakking the River, as Jimmy said. Jimmy, I'm not going to be able to make it either. But I
have a two-seater. You could have sat with me.
We have the clean community. It's been an explosion of community pride. Tom Webb is here from that committee. Thank you, sir. But there's so many other people. There are 200 people have signed up to clean the community this weekend. And I think you're going to go out as well, right, Russell?
Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, that's great. And then the jail has already picked up 500 bags. People keep asking about, are we using our detention center? And the answer is 500 bags thus far. And we've issued out 400 bags for this weekend with roughly 30 miles of pickup. Tom Webb, you get the first 29, all right? But this is just an explosion of community pride. And at the same time, you got to ask yourself, why can't we get inside the heads of those who feel like they're compelled to litter? And we have a rodeo Friday night, talk about normalcy, up at Antioch, and another one Saturday night. And then on the 18th, another work session to get through the next part of our budget. And on the 19th, the Kershaw County Health Services District is going to break ground. We're going to have a groundbreaking ceremony behind the Roses store up in Beechwood. And here we go with continued return to normalcy, as Mr. Connell said. Thank goodness. But the virus is still here, and we still got to deal with it. With that, we go now to your briefings, Mr. Carpenter. Thank you.
Chairman, members of council, to further pick up the point, on the 14th of May, Friday, the Elgin Community Park will be having its ribbon cutting, 2:00 p.m. The park is located behind the Elgin Urgent Care off of Whiting Way at I-20, the interstate exit for Elgin. Encourage the community certainly to come out and be part of this official opening. I'm aware that our mayor of Elgin and other neighbors there have been breaking into the park and using it. So they'll be legal after Friday when we officially open the park up. Saturday, again, is the Acting the River and it's the community cleanup as well. 8 o'clock, people will be meeting up at the tail race outside of the dam and putting in and taking down the river and taking out at the Watery River Veterans Park. Again, thanks to the Mulliken Law Firm, as was mentioned. They're providing lunch free to everybody who participates. There will be comings and goings with the neighborhood cleanups showing up there as well. So it's going to be a very active and busy day at the park. If you can't make the river itself, come out to the park and see everybody come in. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, members of council, I'd like to introduce someone I'm very proud to do for you tonight. I'd like to introduce to you the new fire chief, the first fire chief for the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week Kershaw County Fire Department, Will Glover. Will comes to us from the city of Sumter. He's worked there for over 12 years. He currently serves as the captain of training for the Sumter Fire Department. Will started as an explorer in the Kershaw County Fire Services many years ago, and he is still a volunteer with the Charlotte Thompson Fire Station. Will is homegrown. He's from here. He's us. And he will start officially on the 21st of May, and I introduce you to Mr. Glover. Will, would you like to come say anything?
Mr. Chairman, members of council, excited to be here tonight, excited to be a part of this organization. Like you said, I'm from Kershaw, I'm vested in Kershaw. I'm excited to work with the men and women of Kershaw County Fire Service and have a chance to meet with each of you and speak with you and as we move forward with the fire service in Kershaw County. So just excited for the opportunity to be here. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte Thompson.
Welcome. You're working with a great team back there in the back of the room, I mean to tell you. Right, Scott? Yes, sir.
And that's my report, sir.
And we also have, the county is supporting the Carolina Cup on the 22nd,
yes,
correct?
Sir. Yes, sir, that's correct.
And we'll have a tent, and I think the council is aware of the invitation list and all that. Okay. Thank you. Mr. DeBose.
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. And then we have no executive session tonight, so can we entertain a motion to dismiss?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tucker. No
Second.
surprise. Second from Mr. Connell. Any discussion? Next time we meet will be either at the community cleanup, the Yak in the River, or on Monday at 10 o'clock. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. And it's unanimous, and thank you very much.